Silence in a wrestling arena is a strange thing. It's never really silent. It's the sound of 10,000 people holding their breath, waiting for permission to believe, to hope, or even to hate. For months, the most dominant force in the sport was just gone. An echo. A name whispered but never seen. The throne she built sat empty, gathering dust, while the championship she defined was held by a new, nervous monarch. The world moved on. The shows went on, the storylines marched forward. But that silence, that collective breath, it was always there, just beneath the surface. They were waiting. They just didn't know it. And then it happened. It wasn't a slow return. It wasn't just a rumor confirmed. It was an explosion. The lights didn't just dim, they were snuffed out. Total suffocating darkness, the kind of sudden void that makes you question your own eyes. For 1 second, there was that sacred silence, the intake of breath. The second brought confusion, a low murmur. The third second, boom. That gravelly, unmistakable guitar riff blasted through the speakers, not as music, but as an assault. And the sound from the crowd, it wasn't a cheer, it was a detonation, a primal, visceral roar of disbelief. People grabbed the strangers next to them. Phones, forgotten, clattered to the floor. This wasn't a planned pop. This was a systemic shock. She walked through that curtain, bathed in shadow and smoke, and the reaction only got louder. It became a wall of noise so thick you couldn't hear the music anymore. You just felt the bass in your teeth. This wasn't just a return. This was a resurrection. This was the moment everyone had daydreamed about but never truly believed would happen. Not tonight, not this suddenly, not this perfectly. In that moment, every other story, every other rivalry, every other champion ceased to exist. The center of the universe had just shifted, and it was walking down that ramp. In the arena, it was a moment of pure, shared experience. But outside, it was a whole different kind of chaos. The digital world exploded. Within just 45 seconds, Rhea Ripley wasn't just trending, it broke the platform's algorithms. Even people who weren't watching the show suddenly saw their feeds crash under the weight of that one name. The clip, that grainy, fan-shot video from the upper decks, where the sound distorts and the camera shakes from the sheer force of the crowd, became the new currency. It was shared, reposted, and analyzed millions of times before she even reached the ring. News outlets, sports blogs, and even mainstream cultural sites were scrambling. Who? What? Why? This wasn't just wrestling news. It was a cultural event. Folks who hadn't watched in years were texting their old friends, "Did you see it? She's back." It was a global wave of shared excitement. The reaction wasn't just in the arena. That was merely the epicenter. The shockwave hit every phone, laptop, and TV in the world at the same time. The internet became a singular echo chamber of just 2 words: she's back. For one night, the cynical, divided internet found a rare moment of absolute unity. And it was all focused on the woman staring daggers at the current terrified champion. We see the explosion from the front, but imagine the view from the back. Picture gorilla position, that space just behind the curtain where superstars wait. Imagine the producers and technicians, headsets on, watching their carefully planned show fall apart. This return? It was kept under wraps, a secret known only to the highest powers. When that music hit, the production truck went silent. The road agents froze. They were glued to the same feed as everyone else. Jaws dropped. And the other wrestlers? The ones waiting for their own matches? They crowded around the monitors, their ambitions and fears warring on their faces. They weren't performers anymore. They were fans, just like everyone else. Now let's focus on the champion. The one in the ring, cutting a promo and basking in their own glory. They had no clue. They were acting in a play, and the main character just walked on stage, off script, holding a new ending. You could see it on their face. It's not just wrestling fear. It's real fear. The blood drains from their face. Their promo dies in their throat. They're watching in real time their entire reign, their status, their value evaporate. The crowd isn't cheering for her arrival. They're cheering for their execution. And she hasn't even taken a step toward them yet. When a shark returns to the water, the entire ecosystem has to readjust. The locker room after the show was a quiet, tense place. The usual post-show chatter vanished, replaced by whispers. Rhea's return wasn't just a moment. It was a fundamental shift in reality. Everyone's position just changed. Those who were next in line for a title shot, They just got shoved to the back of a very, very long line. Those who felt secure in their spot, they were now looking over their shoulders. The power dynamic, carefully constructed over months, crumbled in 3 minutes. Friends suddenly became cautious. Her faction, the Judgment Day, was back in the spotlight. But was this their plan, or hers? Did they know? The ambiguity was the most dangerous part. If they knew, they were the most powerful force in the company. If they didn't, then their leader had just gone rogue, and even they were left in the dark. Meanwhile, the champion was isolated. Backstage, you could see them sitting alone, staring at the wall. The title belt, once a symbol of their dominance, now looked like a target. The message was clear. The nightmare had returned, and the entire locker room was now living in her world again. We celebrate the return. We never ask about the absence. Those months of silence weren't a vacation. They were a war. They were the unseen, unglamorous, agonizing days of rehabilitation. Imagine the reality of it. The sterile smell of the doctor's office. The frustration of learning to trust your own body again. The mental drain of pushing against a limit that just months before didn't exist. There are no cameras in that room. There are no fans chanting your name. It's just you, the physical therapist, and the nagging voice in your head asking, "Will I ever be the same?" The Rhea Ripley who walked down that ramp wasn't the same one who left. She was tougher. She was forged in that silent frustration. Every day she was gone, she watched someone else hold her championship. She saw the division she built continue without her. That return wasn't just a comeback. It was the release of months of compressed rage, pain, and doubt. The crowd's roar was validating, yes, but it was secondary. The real victory happened in those quiet, lonely rooms, long before the music ever hit. She wasn't just coming back for the title. She was coming back to reclaim the time that was stolen from her, and that makes her way more dangerous than the champion she was before. The morning after the return is always a strange fog. The adrenaline is gone, replaced by soreness and reality. And for Rhea, it was the media chaos. Picture a press conference early in the morning. She hasn't slept. She's running on pure momentum. The room is packed, flashes are popping, but the questions aren't about the match. They're about the injury. "Rhea, were you cleared? Rhea, how does it feel? Rhea, what's next?" She has to sit there, projecting that same aura of invincibility, that mommy confidence when just 24 hours ago she was probably terrified. Terrified it wouldn't work. Terrified the crowd might have forgotten. This is the pressure of the crown. You can't just be back. You have to be better than when you left. The reaction was historic, yes, but that reaction now becomes the new standard. Every time her music hits, the crowd will expect that same explosion. Every promo, every match has to live up to the fantasy they built in her absence. She returned as a legend, but now she has to be the legend. The media blitz is the first test. She can't show weakness. She can't admit to doubt. She has to be the nightmare. And as she sits there smiling that confident smirk for the cameras, only she knows how close she came to never coming back at all. We see the superstar, we see the icon, we forget the person. Sometime in the early hours of the morning, after the arena is empty and the trucks have rolled out, she finally makes the call. The call home, to her family in Australia. They didn't see the return from the front row. They saw it on a TV, thousands of miles away, hearts in their throats. They're the ones who heard the months of silence in her voice. They're the ones who took the late-night calls when the rehab was too much, when the pain was unbearable, when she cried in frustration. They weren't watching Rhea Ripley return. They were watching their daughter, their sister, go back to the one thing that broke her. What's that conversation like? The pride, of course. The "I told you, you could do it." But beneath that, there's fear, the unstated, "Please, be careful." They heard that crowd. They saw the explosion of noise, but they also saw the risk. They saw the thing she was willing to sacrifice her body for. For the fans, it's entertainment. For her, it's her life. For her family, it's their life too. That single phone call in the quiet of a lonely hotel room holds more emotional weight than the entire spectacle we all watched. It's the grounding rod. It's the reminder of why she fights and what's truly at stake. The reunion with her faction, this is where the real drama lies. The Judgment Day thrived in her absence, but they were always incomplete. They were a regency council, keeping the throne warm. Now the true monarch is back. Imagine that first meeting. It's not all hugs and celebration, it's business. She walks in, the room falls silent. They don't know this version of her. This version is colder, more focused, tempered by her time away. Did she trust them enough to tell them she was coming back? Or did she keep them in the dark, just like everyone else, to ensure the secret was safe? If she told them, it proves their bond is unbreakable. But if she didn't, it introduces a fascinating new crack in their foundation. It means she's operating on her own level, even above them. It's a power play. She's reestablishing dominance, not just over the roster, but over her own family. They now have to prove their loyalty to her, not the other way around. Her return wasn't just a signal to the champion, it was a warning to her own group. The mommy they knew is gone. The one who returned is the boss, and the games are over. The mission is simple: reclaim her gold and destroy anyone who stands in the way. Let's forget Rhea for a moment. Let's talk about the champion. The one left standing in the ring, mouth open, as the show went off the air. What does their week look like? They go home. They try to